Hello, good morning and welcome to Magic in Mind. My name is Maggie Rose Cunningham and we are here for your New Moon Oracle session for our New Moon in Isa, which is a very apt new moon energy for here in the Northern Hemisphere where we are in our wintering phase. This new moon is the new moon that comes right before Yule, so the Anglo-Saxons used to call it Era Jula, which means before Yule, very pragmatic of them. So I'd love to know from you, as we enter a new lunar cycle, where are you in terms of your spiritual path at the moment? You might be in seeker phase, so you might be looking for new teachings, looking to bring new energy into your practice, or you might be in what I think of as the doing phase. You're sort of in practitioner phase. Yes, I'm comfortable with my practice, and I'm enhancing it, I'm testing it, I'm trying it. I'm sort of, just in the doing phase, in the practice phase. You might be in a guide phase. You might be thinking, I want to share what I'm doing out into the world and offer it to others. I've got something to teach, or within my community, I'm leading people and supporting them in their growth. Or you might be, and this is the important phase for today, you might be in rest phase, what I think of as the wintering phase. And this the wintering phase is one that certainly when I speak to my one-to-one clients and they're out there in the world and they're doing their they're often in the practitioner phase or in the guide phase themselves, and they're supporting others, that the wintering phase can be really, really difficult to get into. Now, when you think about wintering, we're thinking here about the phase when we get to integrate, where we get to reflect, where we get to rest, where we get to replenish, and also where we get to celebrate. We get to say, I did that. And this is the phase often that, I work with groups as well, and I go into, particularly into universities where they're sort of in the academic heads, and we talk about the seasons of growth, where we are right now. And often it's the wintering phase that they go, I can't remember the last time I got to have a wintering phase. You could think about it as the doing nothing phase is often the way that our society views it, and we go, the doing nothing phase is not important because I don't appear to be busy, I don't appear to be doing anything, and therefore that's the bit that we can cut. Whereas in actual fact, there's a lot of doingness going on. It's just inner. It's the inner doingness. You might think about this with trees, where they draw the sap in, they draw all of their sap in and they release their leaves, and it's partially in response to our surroundings. If you think about winter and the season of winter, that's sort of when they do this, but it's also the time when the cold comes in and it gets rid of disease, it gets rid of fungi, it gets rid of bacteria for trees, incredibly important for them so that they can grow again the next year. It's that when we've done the autumn and we've done the releasing and letting go of and all of those things, and then we move into the deep rest of winter, and then we emerge strengthened and renewed, more centered in our purpose when we come and we emerge at the other side after that winter phase. Now, I often think about this as being that Odin is a little bit of a role model here for us. So at the moment we're moved into Ul's hall. So Ul is the hunter god, he's a winter god, and in astrology we just moved into his hall at the present time. And moving into that hall with the sun is said to be this time when Odin leaves his throne, and he says, can you just take over for a period of time? It's a very ancient tradition that we don't know much about. We just have these fragmentary information about this time when Odin leaves the hall. Some people interpret it as being a little bit like the Holly King and the Oak King, that they're sort of fighting in some way for precedence or dominance, but I'm not sure. I like to think that Ul and Odin are a little bit in a collaboration here, and I think that for me this is a time when Odin is role modelling wintering for us. He's saying, I'm going to let the wintering god do his thing, and I'm going to go and rest and replenish and do what I need. And I can see some comments in the chat box for those of you who are joining me here live. So welcome to everyone who is here with me live. Welcome to you if you're watching the recording. So someone's saying, I definitely need a proper wintering phase as opposed to doing nothing due to procrastination, which doesn't feel like rest or integration. No, you're absolutely right. And procrastination can be our body's calling us into wintering, saying, I need a wintering phase. But we can find it difficult to do that because we're not giving ourselves permission for it. We're not saying, I am actively entering wintering. It can also be that I can't make decisions because I don't have all the information that I need. There can be lots of reasons why we move into procrastination that aren't about going, oh, I'm like wasting my time, or I'm feeling like bad doing this. I think procrastination has been given a very bad rep in our society again, because it's seen as having no purpose, and it certainly feels frustrating. But sometimes it can be about saying, I need a power nap. My brain needs a refresh. I need to go be in a different energy in order to achieve what it is, the task that I want to achieve. I'm not going to do it sitting here just staring at the screen or the thing that I need to do. What energy do I need to be in? And so it can be our brain saying, I'm not in the right energy. Sometimes I might need wintering. Sometimes I might need a different location. Sometimes I need different information in order to move through. So you're right. That's one. I think that's a really useful insight, that procrastinating is not the same as wintering. Candice is saying, I think I'm in the resting, restoring, resetting phase. At the moment, I'm working on myself so I can finally be able to join the Amplify course. Yay! I would love that. I would love that. I'm going to set that in there. That's my little on my wish list, that you'll be coming in onto Amplify. And I think that is really key. And sometimes, I'll often speak to people and we'll do our discovery calls, and we'll sit together and we'll say, what is needed now? And knowing what phase you're in and what it is that your heart is desiring and what you're ready for is incredibly important. And the wintering phase really helps us to do that. Because if you think about this role modelling of Odin, if we don't do the wintering phase, we don't get those opportunities for integration, for reflection, for knowing what it is that we really need. We can end up repeating the exact same patterns of what we've done previously, because we haven't had a chance to integrate and to say, I've learned from this in the past and I know what it is that I need now, or I know how I operate at my best. Or whatever it is that you haven't learned. I did try to do that without support, for example, and now I know that I need support. But we don't internalize those things if we don't do our wintering, and we can end up in burnout as well. Because we just keep going and we keep going and we keep going, and eventually we hit rock bottom and we have no energy left to give. So the question I'm going to invite you to feel into is you might think about this as an exploration for yourself in your journaling. It might come up for you in your new moon journaling, for those of you who are members of the Sunna Starwheel, with the Isa new moon journaling. It might come up while you're feeling into the waxing moon as the moon grows. Is where do you winter well? So when is it that you are like, yes, I'm able to winter well? It might be a particular time of year, or it might be there are places that I go to for wintering. So where do I winter well, and where would I like to winter better? So when have I noticed that I don't winter well and I end up, for example, in procrastination mode, or I wake up and I don't feel rested? Now, what I want to say here in terms of wintering is that there are different ways in which we can winter. So obviously here in the northern hemisphere, we are moving into winter, and so if we're able to, we will harness that energy. We will be aligned with and congruent with Mother Nature around us. It's not always that easy, but we can do our best to be in alignment with that, and to say, well, the easiest time for me to be in wintering mode is going to be when the world around me is in wintering mode. But we can also think about sleep as being a form of wintering. So if you're thinking about wintering well, it might be, what are my sleep routines? How do I get into deep, replenishing sleep? Dreaming is also part of wintering. If you think about that reflection, that the brain is going into processing mode, but we might look and go, okay, so do I have my deep sleep and my dreaming sleep well? I'm certainly discussing that with the members of Adrazel's Path at the moment. We're looking at that and going, getting that balance right between lots of stuff coming through during my dreams and also saying I want rest is important. So sleep is our, the pattern of wintering that happens every 24 hours. For women who are still menstruating, the bleeding phase is the wintering phase. And actually for women, even if you passed menopause, women will report that they still have that period of time when they feel that all the wintering phase is upon them. So they will have a lunar cycle, maybe wintering phase. If you think about the waning moon and the dark moon, we just had a wintering phase. In fact, as I'm recording this, we should be in the wintering phase at this point because the new moon is at the very end of this week. So this is the perfect wintering phase right now, whether we're following our biological cycle or whether we're following the lunar cycle, which can be whether you're masculine energy, feminine energy. The lunar cycle can be really helpful for that as well. Obviously, we've talked about winter. We can also think about this in terms of like end of projects, end of cycles. You might think about it during the end of lifetime cycles. So, my son is going to turn 10. So he's going to go out of single digits into double digits in January. And there's a little bit of introspection going on for him right now, I would say. There's an initiatory moment that's coming. And so he's doing his wintering. What am I going to be leaving behind? What's going to change? And what do I want to review and reflect on? So we can have this in terms of life cycle moments as well, life phases. And we can also have it with projects or activities that we're doing too. Now, which is where certainly when I go and I work with teams in universities, we look at, we never do that evaluation bit and that celebration bit, or it might just be an email going, well then everybody, now we're on to the next project. So we have phases of wintering. So you might think about that in terms of where do I winter well and where would I like to winter better. So as I have said, all of this really integrates with the new moon energy coming up with this new moon in Isa. So Isa, we start to look at our runes, and very shortly we're going to be doing the readings for those of you who are here with me live. Isa is the rune of ice. It's the rune of stillness. It is a rune of reflection. But there is great power within the Isa rune, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this. So, if we don't do our replenishment and we're feeling really low, if you see somebody who hasn't done their replenishment and they're near to burnout, you can see their shoulders are often stooped, their skin is quite can be quite grey, they've got a furrow in the brows, and they're quite small in their energy because they're literally just going, oh my God, I can't take any more, I'm knackered, please stop. It's like this shell has sort of formed around them. Now, Isa can contain within it the energy of darkness and rest and stillness, but there is a sovereignty to the Isa rune. It's the rune of the self in that sense. And so when we have done that rest and replenishment, I'm just looking for my Isa rune card, it's hiding from me. We have a magnetism, like a charisma to us. There's a center. It's like you are standing rooted. Here we go. Here's our Isa rune. So we literally get this, the letter I, and the concept of I, of self, comes from the Isa rune. So this process of wintering lets me release what's not me. All of this busyness, that's not me. All of these problems, they are not me. Everything that I feel as if, is not outside of my control. It is outside of my control, and it's not me. All of these things come through with the Isa rune. So there is this deep releasing process that then allows us to feel into our core and say, okay, and here I am. And we use the mantra, I am. In Awaken, it comes up a lot. I use it on the Dressel's Path as well, that really feeling into that Isa energy. So as you're feeling into this new moon, you can think about it as an invitation, because it's the new moon, it's an opening to possibility. I've just looked out the window and there's a squirrel literally just bounding along outside my window. Here you go, if it's Ratatosk doing, good job, we're doing fine. And so the Isa energy with the new moon is an invitation into a deeper connection with self. If it was the full moon, it might be about celebrating how am I already connected with myself. So the how might I winter better question is really energized by the new moon, by what might be possible or it might be available to you. Now the other runes that I'm going to dip into for us here on Magic in Mind are the full moon in Dagaz and then the two movements of Sunna's chariot, of the sun through the runic wheel. If you want to know more about the other planets, then join Sunna's Starwheel, because I do a bigger sort of oracle session about the other planets as well, about the energies that are available to us. But the full moon in Dagaz we have is so sort of different to the new moon in Isa. Because Dagaz is the rune of the day. It is the rune of change, of sudden transformation, of stepping through gateways. So deeply, here we go, there's our Dagaz rune. And what you'll notice is that the Dagaz rune has got two sides to it. And so it's the balance of day and night. So that's where it shares its nature with Isa. So Isa has this the darkness of wintering, but it's also got the reflectivity of the ice and that light, that fire that burns within us when we are centered and within ourselves. Dagaz has the balance of day and night as a rhythm, as a cycle. So there's a movement inherent in Dagaz which isn't present there in Isa. And so when we get to our full moon, there is a gateway moment. So this is an opportunity if you feel like, you know, I could winter better here, or I'm feeling weighed down by life, you know, all those things, the things I can't control, all of those things you want to step through. You can literally use that full moon Dagaz energy as a moment of stepping through. We're stepping through a gateway, and it's so perfectly poised as well, just before the winter solstice, or the summer solstice if you're in the southern hemisphere, to say it's a gateway moment, this opening up to new possibility, which is very, very present through the course of this month. So those are our two lunar runes, and then we have the passage of the sun of Sunna's chariot. So at this moment in time, when we're doing this right live now, Sunna's chariot is in Eihwaz. So if you think about wintering, and we've been talking about the energy of wintering, I'm going to look at our runes. And what I'm going to do now, for those of you who are live, is to invite you to share the rune that you have drawn for yourself at the moment that you're working with, whether it's your rune today, whether it's your rune for the coming month. Share your rune and we'll do some mini readings on that. And I'm going to look at the sun runes while you're doing that and think about them in the context of wintering. So for those of you who aren't able to join me live, obviously not able to have your readings done, but we've looked at two runes already. Well, we'll look at whatever people share, and we'll look at the sun runes as well. Wonderful. So I've got some coming through, which I will write down as we go. So we have got Grace with Perthrow, and Candice with Bacano. Oh, and someone you've also got Bacano. Lovely. So we'll come back to those in a moment. I'm just going to look at the runes. We don't have any replicated, which is nice, so we'll get some broad readings there. And I can see a couple of other people as well, so you don't have to share if you don't want to. That's absolutely fine. But we do have time while we go through the readings if you want to, share. So with our Eihwaz rune, Sunna's chariot's in Eihwaz at the moment. Hi Heather, lovely to see you. This is very much a rune of support. It's a rune of resilience and strength. There is a tenacity to it. And so for me, if I was drawing the Eihwaz rune and I was thinking about wintering, I would be thinking about two themes. I would be thinking about where is it that my strength is most needed at this time, and how do I focus in on that, recognizing that during the wintering period we're going to have less energy available to us. So where is it that my energy needs to be focused most, where I need to bring strength, where I need to bring that resilience, and then using your Eihwaz rune to bring that through for yourself. And then with on the other side might then be, okay, so when I need to get things done, but they're not the things that are really require my energy, or are not the most important right now, then you're going to be thinking about, where can I get support? Where is my best support mechanism? If you think about Eihwaz there as being like the staff. I should have got the Eihwaz rune out, shouldn't I? I'll get the Eihwaz rune out for you and I can see. That's absolutely fine. I've got a couple of people who said I haven't drawn my rune yet. Let me know, because we've got a few people, but not quite as many as we normally have. Who knows? Maybe it's them. Maybe they're all wintering. Let me know if you want me to draw a rune for you, because we do have time for that, unless we get a big flood of people coming in at the end. So the Eihwaz rune looks a little bit like the Isa rune, but it's got a little bit of a flick. It's got a tail and it's got a little head as well. It's making me think of a dragon right now. Here we go. Eihwaz rune. So it's got its little head there, it's got its little tail there, and I'm thinking about a dragon. I'm also thinking about a serpent, and I'm going to share something with you because we have got a little bit of time today, which is quite nice. Thinking about wintering. So there is a serpent at the base of the great world tree, Yggdrasil, called Nidhogg. And I think that Nidhogg gets a bit of a bad rap. So Nidhogg was often seen as being a destructive force. She's said to nibble at the roots of the world tree in order to destroy it, supposedly. But I think about her as being, in many ways, the force of winter, the devouring force that takes that which we really no longer need and also promotes tenacity and growth. It's a little bit like when you take a plant and you repot it, and if the plants become pot bound, you take the plant out and you literally sort of like tap on the roots, you disrupt them a little bit. And I don't know the science behind this, so this is just what my mum taught me in terms of gardening. So anyone who's a more professional gardener than me, let me know. But this is what I was taught to do. I sort of disrupt the roots a little bit around the edges and sort of wake them up and potentially damage them a little bit, and then place them in the ground, and then they know to sort of reach out. It's like freedom calling, saying, oh, there's room to grow now. And I like to think that Nidhogg does that. She sort of devours the old energy that we're letting go of, and she spurs us on to find our strength and to root more deeply. And the Eihwaz rune definitely has that within us. It's the rune of the yew tree, it's the rune of the staff. So that's our Eihwaz rune. And then we're going to move in, and all the dates for this are in Sunna Starwheel. And thank you very much, Candice, for your lovely words about Sunna Starwheel. I'm glad that you enjoy it and that you would recommend it. Much appreciated. And once we have our Eihwaz rune, then we move on to Jera. So Jera is, I always think about it as the Yule rune for me. It's the rune of the year. So we've got our new moon, our full moon in Dagaz, the rune of the day. And then we've got our Sunna's chariot in Jera at the same time, right, like bang in the middle. The solstice is bang in the middle there, sort of perched in the centre between summer and winter, who are circling each other, like so. In Jera, the rune of the year, you can feel how year comes from and emerges from Jera. So if you're thinking about wintering here, it reminds me of, I was thinking about this earlier today, because there are so many people in our community who are this is a global community. So there are people who are in the southern hemisphere who are experiencing a totally different climate and a totally different like weather ecosystem to the one that we're talking about in terms of where it's rooted within the northern tradition. I have huge respect for people who are saying, I still want to be able to honour and stand within the power of the heritage that is from the language that I'm speaking, or from my family, from my past, or that I have a calling to, and to do that in a place and to sort of span two worlds at the same time, to honour the spirits of place that you are within, but to also recognise that you're potentially like not indigenous to that place, and therefore don't appropriate, pretend that you are, to actually say these are the spirits that travel with me, that are part of my heritage, and to be in that. And it's not easy, and I think that the Jera rune is very much a teacher in that regard, because obviously one of the things that we know now is that whenever it is deep winter in one hemisphere, it is high summer in the other. And it's that recognition of balance that is there at all times within the Jera rune. So when we're thinking about wintering and the Jera rune there, you might think about things like, how do I bring heat? What is the role of fire in the winter times? Or how do I find coolness if I'm in the great heat? Where do I find coolness and shade, and my requirement for that? And how do I balance those things? This is when the sauna becomes really important, and eating hot food, and the whole concept of hygge, really, really good one to look at. So if you're in the hot climate, you're going to be looking at where is that coolness, that shadow. Shadow here being the rest and the darkness, and how do I really treasure as well that time of sleep when the light, the hours of light are so much stronger than the hours of dark. So that's the balance of wintering that's needed there, regardless of where you are in terms of world and location. And then finally we move. Have we done that? No. We've done Eihwaz. We've done Jera. I've done them in the wrong order. Isa. Oh, that's not this Isa. Jera. I've just done them backwards, just to be really annoying. I've done them backwards. So yeah. So we start in Isa, then we move to Jera, and then we're on to Eihwaz as soon as Chariot. Dyspraxic brain. So those are our three sun runes through the course of this coming lunar cycle. Let's have a look. So yes, Heather and Trish have both asked for runes, so I'm going to draw them now, and then I'm going to do the reading to the people who are here. Ooh, what have we got? Here we go. There's Heather. Heather, you have got Suelu. And then Trish. I just love doing live readings. They always come across so strong. Very, very interesting. So Trish, you have got a very interesting reading, because the rune Hagalaz came in. It was like singing "oh" incredibly strongly. Then two other runes, sort of, they presented themselves, which is the Isa rune and the Jera rune. So I'm going to use Hagalaz, but I'm going to look at it through the lens of Jera and Isa, both of which obviously have come up again, and the three of them sort of fell out at the same time. So that'll be a fun rune reading for us to finish with. So let's look at Grace. Let's look at your rune, Grace. So you've got the Perthro rune, which comes actually after Eihwaz. So after the solstice period, when we move into the new lunar cycle, we'll have Eihwaz almost at the very end of this lunar cycle, just before the new moon. And then we'll have a 2-week period, and then we'll move into Perthro, which brings us really flowing energy. So whereas the runes that I've talked about are quite structured, there is a sort of like rigidity to the wintering process that obviously comes with the ice, and our joints can feel quite like literally quite rigid and stiff. There can be a stiffness that comes with this wintering period and this ice. And then Perthro brings in the fluidity, and it's not the spring energy yet, which comes with Bacano, which interestingly Candice and Swan have both got. It is that it's the water. It's the time when the ice is no longer not everything is frozen. So you might see it as being like what's it called? The sea bark is one of the kennings for ice. It sort of goes as like this sort of flat. Everything else is underneath, under the ice. I don't know, have you ever watched any of those videos or listened to the sound of the ice, where you go and they'll put a microphone on the ice, and then they'll hear it moving. And then there's the water, underneath that. And it's like the song of the water. So I think about it as being the rebirthing song of the water here for you, Grace, is what I'm feeling. And that sense of being very attuned with what is happening beneath the surface. You remember that I was talking about the sap being drawn in when the trees go into hibernation, the sap is drawn in. So it's not that they're not dead. Their life force energy is much more concentrated. And then there's the protective bark. Think about the sea bark, then you've got the actual bark of the trees, protecting the life force energy that's underneath. I'm feeling hope and optimism, and a sense that that's a gift that you offer to others during this period of time, Grace. So yeah, really like allowing that Perthro energy, that deep knowing to come through for you, and recognizing that in that winter time, it's a time when stories birth within us, when insights and wisdom can come bubbling up. You might think about it as the geysers. I think about Iceland, places like that even if it's in the landscape of fire and ice, when the two combine is where the warm water and sort of potent water comes as well. I'm thinking about places like the Blue Lagoon, of all of those minerals within them, just literally this life force energy coming through. So you might find that there's quite a lot of inspiration coming through you during this time. And obviously that is appropriate for wintering. It's that time when we literally have time for telling stories and sharing with each other. So looking for that and seeing that as a life force energy is important. So Candice and Swan, you both got Bacano, which is almost a sort of jumping forward into the spring. And I'm going to look at this in terms of thinking about wintering. Yeah. As something that can be really positive, and something that we might need to watch a little bit. So there is the fine line between the wintering time as a dreaming space, where we're feeling into the possibility for the future, and we're saying this might be possible, and these are what my hopes are, that I'm sowing deep into the earth at this time. And that sense of wanting to either hurry it along. I wish I was there right now. Should I get started right now? That can come through, can't it? Can be say, instead of me allowing that dream space to open, I then want to act on it. Like the magician self wants to come forward too quickly and start to act on it. So it's sort of saying the process of dreaming is an end in itself, is what the Bacano rune is offering here. It's the womb of the Great Mother. The Bacano rune is the rune of spring and rebirth and the birch tree and all of those things. So we can often think about it as being associated with newness. But to me, as a rune that comes later in the Elder Futhark, all of the later runes in the Elder Futhark have combined meanings. They're synergized runes that bring in wisdom from all sorts of different sources. And so it contains within it the darkness, but it's the potent darkness within which all sorts of possibilities are birthing. And it's saying that when we allow the dreaming space to be the end in itself, and we don't go, oh, I need to immediately act on that, we call in the energy of the gods and of spirit to support us. So it's almost the this and more type of approach of saying, this is what I'm wishing for. Here's our Bacano rune. This is what I'm wishing for. Place my seed in the earth, or my coin into the wishing well. You know? And then this and more. You know? And then leaving that as being the moment. I don't have to take control of it and be my magician self straight away, as I'm getting with the Bacano rune there. So that was the sort of the not rushing piece. But it is recognizing that for both of you within this wintering period, new ideas may flow and may be coming through, and that it is worth recording them, nurturing them, potentially sharing them with others. But if you're going to do that with people who feel safe. And by that I mean, if I want to, let's say I feel like, yeah, I want to write a book, you know, I really want to write a book and I want to bring it out into the world, and it's going to be magnificent and delicious. And what we tend to do is we go, oh, yeah, I've had this brilliant new idea, and then we go and share it with our loved ones. Now, and what our loved ones do is they go, right, my filter here is that I want my loved one to stay safe and secure. And writing a book seems like a very foolish endeavour, and do they know anything about it? And shouldn't they be doing something more sensible? And all of these things come up. And they can say, oh, you know, well, maybe something for the future, or do you think that you're really ready for that? Or, you know, anything like that can come up. Tell me if that resonates with you, where you've shared an idea that you've gone, oh, that's amazing, with someone who you really love, you know, someone who's really important to you in your life, and they've sort of just poured water all over it, you know. And that's because they love you, they care about you, they're thinking, change, well, I'm worried about change, that's risk. No, not for my lovely person, no. But the thing is, unless that person is a highly acclaimed author with, you know, X number of years of experience, or they're an editor, or they're somebody with expertise in writing a book and being successful in it, their opinion doesn't count. You know, be careful who you choose to offer your bright green shoots of ideas to. Not because those people aren't safe to be with, because they love you and they cherish you and they're wonderful, but because they're not necessarily a safe space for the idea that you have in this moment. So choose the people who can actually advise you. Maybe safe is the wrong word, nurturing, let's say. Who is going to nurture or support me in this little idea that I've had, because they're actually qualified to do so. So those are the two bits that I'm going to offer to you, Candice and Swan. I'm not sure there. It's a very combined one. If there are particular bits that are for either of you, but for anyone who has got Bacano, those are wintering teachings from Bacano. So Heather, we've got the Suelo rune. So the Suelo rune is also, it's a little bit later. It's before the Bacano, really in terms of our cycle, but it's the rune of the sun. So I'm feeling this with the solstice energy for you, Heather. This turning of the wheel, there's a heart opening call of freedom, expansiveness, which feels a little bit incongruent in some ways with wintering. It's a bit of a mischief rune. Here we go. Here's our Suelo rune. And what's coming through to me really clearly, Heather, so I'm just going to share it with you as I can see it, is I'm seeing like a homestead. It's a place where lots of people live, and it's on a port. It's a port. Let's say it's like a Viking settlement. It's a Viking settlement. It's been there for ages, and it's on the seashore or near an estuary. So there's water, and the ships have all been brought in for winter. And you know, the dragon heads that they have, they've all been taken off because they're friendly, so they don't need their fierce aspects coming out, and they've been carefully placed in safe places, so they're not going to be weathered, and everyone's in the hall, and they're all snug and cozy. And then there's you going, what am I going to do next? Woohoo! You know, and bringing that energy of excitement and anticipation and possibility in the moment to all of them. And some of them are like, oh, you know, we could be doing that, that'd be fine. And others are like, we're really tired right now. And it's, to me, it's actually talking a little bit about bringing the trickster energy through. So Suelo does have a mischievous sort of laughter, fun-loving quality to it. And it's recognizing that sometimes, even though what those people need is more, is inspiration and what's going to come next, and we need to start planning for the future cycle and all of those things, it's not what they want, you know? And it's, yeah, I can just feel that sense of going, okay, how can I bring that in so that I'm not saying, oh, we're going to do all this exciting stuff, we're going to do that. I'm just going to bring it in through some really gentle storytelling that starts more congruent with their energy, maybe of depletion a little bit and tiredness, and lulls them into, oh yes, now I'm open, now I'm ready. And then you're just going to start to build the energy slowly, bringing the anticipation levels up. So it's a little bit of a slow process of sowing the seeds with others so that they start to then resonate with you, is what I'm feeling. I hope that makes sense to you. It just came through really clean. I was like, okay, that's fine, that's what I'll do. It says it's sounding exactly like you, very Gemini. And I think it is, yeah, it's just saying use your cunning. You know, sometimes people need the slow burn, just a little bit to bring them through there. And what we've got here, so Candice is saying, definitely spot in with the reading. So excited over a new idea and rush in and then end up being overwhelmed. Fabulous. So that's wonderful, isn't it, for you, in terms of saying, okay, how can I nourish this idea without nourishing it immediately from my own energy? So I'm glad that that worked for you. And just want to say, I totally relate to the experience of sharing ideas with well-meaning loved ones and negative consequences. So yeah, giving yourself that permission to do this when I haven't been giving myself permission, so really helpful. Thank you. I'm really glad, really glad. So we've done Heather's Suelo rune. Trish, you've got your Hagalaz rune. And then Meg, you've come in with a Gibo rune. Well done, right in the end, like swooping in there at the end like a hawk. So Trish, with your Hagalaz rune, this was really interesting to me, and I do try when I have a reading and I draw one rune and then the others sort of come out and speak at the same time. I do try to sort of combine, even though obviously I'm very strict that we do one rune readings. When spirit intervenes, who am I not to listen? And I feel that this is a tension here between that structure and order and the stiffness and the sort of rigidity that I've been talking about with winter, and the need for movement and change. And I can feel it as being like the continents sliding between each other, or as two glaciers sort of coming, and it's that friction that's caused between them. And I think that what it's saying is that friction is needed. However blimmin' uncomfortable it might be, because it generates heat. And heat is what's needed to thaw the ice. So I'm thinking that for you, Trish, it is looking at if there are areas where there is uncomfortableness or conflict that might be, you might be in the centre of it, or you might be witnessing it, seeing that around you. But it's recognising that that conflict is generating a heat, and that heat will eventually like melt some of the ice or plane down some of the edges, and then movement will be able to occur. So it's sort of saying, don't go in there straight away as the peace weaver, saying that's fine, we can soothe and we can calm and we can harmonise. It's saying really, you know, with it was Issa and Jera, wasn't it? And it was a little bit like, we can't force the movement into Jera until the time is right. So there's a patience, like allowing that to happen, which needs to occur, and that process of conflict and challenge might actually be exactly what's needed. We're going to finish with Gibo, with Maggie's rune, with Gibo, the rune of gift giving and exchange. It's quite a nice rune, I think, to sort of end on for this time. There's so much about receiving and giving and reciprocity with the Gibo rune. If we think about it in terms of giving and receiving and wintering, here's our Gibo rune here. there's an obvious meaning, and then there's a meggy meaning. And I'm saying that because I feel as if you will already know quite a lot of what I'm going to say. I'm going to share it because I think that it's relevant to so many of us who can feel the sort of like the bloatedness of the Christmas season. You know, the sort of glitz and the glamour and the I've got to get this and purchase that, and there's not enough presents, and I need to have the Sunday sack needs to be totally and utterly full, and we need more food, and all of those sorts of things coming through, and that it's the poor old Gibo room is totally like distorted out of proportion, and we get all of those things where people are like, well, I sent a card and they didn't send a card, so there's no reciprocity here, and la, la, la. And it can be really difficult to navigate this period of time with grace, you know, with the spirit of grace, without sort of going, oh yeah, I'm going to sort of glut myself on 1,000 mince pies. Believe me, I've already started that. Or feeling like, oh, someone's just given me a gift and I didn't do one for them, and now I feel absolutely awful. You know, all of those things that come through. And it's that sense for me of almost recognising that if we were talking at the beginning of the session about climate, weren't we? We were talking about climate and the way in which, if you're in the southern hemisphere but you're talking about northern tradition and you're a northern tradition practitioner, you have to be able to hold sort of two energies at the same time, to be able to say, okay, I'm in this, I need to embrace what's actually here, and I'm sort of holding that connection at the same time, and I've got a foot in two worlds. And I'm feeling here, Maggie, it's almost recognising that culturally, and this is true for everyone really, we exist in a cultural climate at this time of year that does massively pressurise the poor old Gibo room, you know, and we place so much importance on it. And that as practitioners who are in many ways standing within a different tradition, you know, celebrating Yule, and yes, there are some crossovers, but there are other things that are very, very different, and there is much more emphasis on quietness and hospitality, but not sort of, you must wear a Santa hat and you must have a cracker and all of those things. That's what we're attempting to do, is we're attempting to stand in a different energy when the culture around us is doing something very, very different, and giving ourselves a bit of a break for that as well, and saying, you know what, it's hard to weave those energies through, and sometimes we might slip into one or we might slip into another. Now, I come from a Christian heritage family on both sides, and you know, my children go to a school, a C of E school, because I wanted them to go to a faith school, and in some ways that was a great decision, in some ways it was a terrible decision. And they are like giddy with the excitement of Christmas, and I'm doing my best to sort of hold my course with that, and also to be able to travel with them at the same time. So it's sort of recognising that we are still woven into and part of the culture that's around us, even if we are seeking to stand for and embody something else. And we can't always be separate. We have to be able to be the person weaving backwards and forwards. You know, that's how change occurs. So there's a little bit of change making going on at the end of for this session today. I'm glad that makes sense for you, Maggie. And her saying, much better. I often get frustrated with wintering just because I like to keep doing the slow burn. Yeah, and sometimes it's recognising, well, maybe I don't need that so much, but that other people's do. So I'm glad other people might do. So I'm glad that was helpful for you. So we'll do some. You're going to see a lot more information coming over the next week about Sunna's Starwheel. If you are not a member, now is a really, really good time to join. Because I'm just relaunching it all. I'm hoping that it will all go live on either tomorrow or Wednesday for people who are currently in Sunna's Starwheel. So it's all new and shiny, and you'll be able to go in and have a little look ready for our formal launch at the new moon. And I'm also hosting winter nights within Sunna's Starwheel, so it will be available to all Sunna's Starwheel members. So for those of you who haven't done winter nights with me before, winter nights is a series of wintering stories that are channeled from within the northern tradition, and we have 4. Last year we had stories from Hermod on his journey down into Helheim, and he carried the full arc. This year, slightly different. The arc is looser, so we have different narrators coming through for each of the stories. And the first who has come through is Frau Holle, who is a Germanic deity, not attested to within the Aesir, within the Norse, but definitely having strong correspondences with the goddesses of the earth and of spring, Berkta and Perkta, and also with Hela. So she's going to be offering our first story, and all of that will be in Sunna Starwheel as well. So if you aren't a member, I highly recommend joining us, because it's going to be so much fun, and you will get a whole year of exploratory resources with your wild voice, journaling for the new moons and the full moons, and stories. There will be a story in the Mystics Hoard, not the Mystics Hoard, the Mystic Story Hoard, I should say. In there are resources for your magician, there are resources for your sage, for your healer. So it's very exciting, and all of the planetary movements for the coming year, all within Sunna Starwheel. So I'd highly encourage you to join. If you can't find the join link or anything else, just drop me an email or message me and I'll get that over to you. But yes, I can't wait to welcome those of you who have been travelling with me for a long period of time, some of whom I know you are here within Sunna Starwheel, and new members as well, and to share winter nights with you. So thank you so much, everybody who has joined me for this new moon oracle. Magic in Mind will be slightly different through the coming the rest of this cycle. So we've got 2 fabulous interviews lined up for you with delightful practitioners, and then I'm going to be doing a year ahead session, where we look at the planetary movements for the year ahead, and we look at some intention setting for the year ahead and what you want, which will be rather lovely, before we then have our new moon for, well, technically it'll be January, but it'll actually be on the 30th of December, our the new moon after this one. But let's not run ahead of ourselves. We have all the delicious goodies yet to go through with winter nights and with the pre-recorded interviews for you there. So lovely to see you all. Love and blessing. Unio. See you very soon.